Brilliant. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Tat Chat, episode number 82, with our guest, Kirsten from Kirsten's Curiosities. I'll say a few quick... Oops, I should have paused that, right? Yeah, I just mentioned off from the kickoff, Nick won't be with us today, which will be disappointing for a lot of you guys, but unfortunately he was unable to make it because he had like a family do. He did try to come on, but it just, the clash was unavoidable. So you're going to be stuck with myself and Kirsten. So hope you guys are okay with that. So we've already got 17 people in the chat, quite a few people. So we'll say a few hellos, but before we do, we'll say hi to Kirsten and, welcome to the Tat Chat. And if you could just give us a quick little intro about yourself and how you found yourself to be on an internet live stream chat on a Tuesday evening.
Don't remind me, I'm trying to pretend there's nobody else watching.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, reselling was a real surprise to me because we've been in retail for forever. And I only started reselling sort of May last year, and it's just sort of snowballed. So the only reason that I did the YouTube was just to feel sort of part of it, so that I didn't feel, I don't know. I know it's not for everybody, but I quite like to sort of be included in conversations and people be able to see who I was and things. So that's how I got to the YouTube side of things. But
fantastic.
Yeah.
So you say that you've had like a history in retail, but it just wasn't something you thought of doing, like the whole reselling stuff.
No, I mean, we've had shops since, well, my husband and I have been together for 20 odd years, and we've had shops for 25 of those, so yeah, we've had retail shops, and we did sell on eBay. We were power sellers selling our art material on eBay years ago, and then a few years ago we stopped doing the selling the art materials on eBay when we opened more shops, and we found it too much hard work running 3 shops and running eBay as well. So we gave that up then. But then about a year or so ago, we had a bit more time on our hands. We don't like to be idle, so thought about selling, not actually reselling. To start with, it was we were going to sell FBA, Amazon, and art materials on Etsy. And it was only when my husband started watching videos on how to do Amazon and how to do Etsy that he came across Nick.
Oh, there we go.
Became a big Nick fan. and that's how it all started, really.
Nick's always at the center of everything. Yeah, as you might know, there is like a hashtag probably that it is all Nick's fault. We've already got 60 people watching us, so welcome everyone. Hope you enjoyed tonight's chat. You can tell already that Kirsten has got like a wealth of experience in business, so and new to reselling, but we're going to delve into that. We've got quite a few people in here. Got to say hello to Bumcrack Picker just because. Just because you have to. Lucy T, Tactical by Southwest Sellers, Stephen Watling, Adam Kelsey, Jason Entwistle as well, Peter Cummins, Andrew Robinson. So Chelsea's popped in as well. So quite a few people in the chat. Hi everybody. Steve's just popped in. Fake Rachel as well. Happy Chap 84. Has he moved to a less rouge shade of lighting? I'm going to address this again. I didn't move it because I wanted to look less red. I moved my setup because I was too far away from work with the computer. So every time I went to check something, I'd end up sitting on the computer away from work and end up not doing work. So now if I get, if I check something on the computer, I've still got all my work just here. So that's why. Not to do with looking less red, although that's a nice positive as well. Yeah, exactly. That's a positive. All right, so your husband got hooked on watching Nick Hill's videos, which is brilliant.
In fact, we actually used to tease him because he'd come home and he'd say, "Oh, I saw Nick today and he did this and Nick does this," and so we'd all tease him and say that he was Nick's best friend,
Oh, fantastic.
So I set up an Etsy account with the intention of selling art materials, because although Etsy is limited, you can't sell everything on there, but you can sell vintage and you can sell craft and art materials. So I'd started the Etsy account to sell art materials. And And then we just thought, oh, we'll try a few things. We went to a car boot, picked up a few things, and I just got a little bit hooked. So, and I found that the vintage stuff was something that I really, really love, you know, so it's taken off from there.
And it's been pretty quick that you found your passion in terms of what you like to do. I mean, you said you just found that you'd like to do the vintage stuff. I mean, how long did it take for you to realize that? So when you were at your boot fairs and you were looking at things, I mean, I've got to ask, did you pick up any board games or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, we've got board games. I think I've still got board games with pieces missing, but I just soon got fed up with counting pieces for board games and finding bits missing, and things like computer games. I would never play a computer game, so I didn't want to sell them without testing them and stuff like that. So for me, the vintage is perfect. It's something that I can research and I can look into without having to, you know, like computer games, you have to know about them before you can do much with them, you know. So
to an extent, but yeah, I mean, okay, so you got in through it, you know, from your hubby watching reselling videos, especially Nick, and then you got into it. You started going to boot fairs, and you mentioned, you touched on your starting your YouTube channel, and you said it's like part of you that just likes to be part of the conversation, as it were. How have you found the reselling community from what you've experienced so far, and any like positives from that?
Oh, absolutely, amazing positives. I was surprised how quickly people are welcoming and how helpful people are, you know, and you know, you've helped me out with various technical questions when I've asked you how to make a YouTube video. Nick's, you know, I've asked Nick a few questions and he's always answered straight away. It's been lovely meeting Caroline. Neil Borden's helped me on some sort of vintage stuff that I've needed some help with, so he's been brilliant. You know, so yeah, I found it really, really helpful, and people have been so nice. It's really nice, really, because you do feel a little bit out on a limb because none of my friends or family have a clue really about any of this sort of thing. They just think that I've got some sort of midlife crisis, I think.
Oh, right. Yeah. And I think something important to take from that you've mentioned is just reaching out and asking and being part of it. You do get so much back from it, don't you? It's like you said, you know, people are more than willing to help out, and you know, that's a really nice point you've actually made there. Right, I think there's a question in here for you from Peter Cummins, who asks, are you a full-time reseller? If you could just quickly recap. So this is just a very small part of what you do, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a full-time reseller. I'm really new to it. You know, I literally started this May last year. We have a business with art shops that we run. Mainly my husband runs those. So I still work part-time in the art shops. So,
and that's where, sorry to interrupt, is that where we see you and you have to quickly cut the camera and yeah
exactly.
Just to explain.
As a customer comes in, I go, oh.
Yeah. Guys, if you haven't already, I will have put a link to Kirsten's channel in the description. You know, please check out her channel. It is actually fantastic, really interesting, and you will see what we're talking about. Oftentimes she'll be filming a video and it has to be done in multiple takes because people are coming and going. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and so yeah, that's our main business, and this one is well, it's my passion now, and it's kind of the way that we're looking forward. You know, it's something that we can almost see as a retirement plan. You know, our real money's come from the art shops, and that's what's our, you know, we're in a lovely position, you know, financially. So it's something that we can use to sort of fund our retirement as such. So I'm building that up now with that in mind, you know.
And it can be really what you want it to be, can't it? I mean, that's the nice thing. You can scale it up as much as you want, or do as little as you want. You know, so I think that's fantastic. Definitely. Got another question here from Dave. How many board games have you collected then?
Do you know, I think I had a car boot sale recently and I just got rid of most of them. I've got some old vintage ones at one of my antique booths, but the rest, no, I think I just took them to the car boot and got rid of them.
All right, that kind of leads me on to what I'd like to ask you next. So, you've mentioned, and on your channel as well, you do seem to have a passion for auctions. Now, a lot of guys out there and girls out there who get into reselling,
Yeah.
the main draw is the weekend boot sale, which you do also take part in. But if you could just give me a quick, rundown of what it is about auctions that has you more hooked than your boot sales.
Okay, so with vintage stuff particularly, if you go to a car boot, you'll pay, so you go to somebody's stall and they've got a lovely cup and saucer or a nice little dish or whatever. The minimum they're going to ask you to pay is 50p. You're not going to get it any cheaper than that. Although I've had the odd thing cheaper than that. But anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to an auction, you can get a whole box full of mainly tat, but there's gems in there. And you pay £6 for the, including commission. I mean, this weekend I got 5 boxes for £10 plus commission. So that's about £12. And in there's some real gems, which you just wouldn't get at the car boot for that kind of money. And I'm lucky in that I've got different ways of selling. So I can use my Etsy account. I can use my eBay account. I can sell at my antique booth. I can sell actually in the shop that we've got downstairs. I can do it in the window there. And if it's really not good enough for any of those platforms, then I've got car boots as well that I just sell off the cheaper stuff there. So even the boxes of real sort of not worth that much, if you're adding up all those 50p's that you're selling that at, you still make a huge profit.
And at the very least, you'd cover the cost of the lot, wouldn't you, out of just those smalls? Yeah. I mean, that's actually a good point as well. I mean, just the fact that you're already active on so many different platforms. You mentioned the antique booth as well. I mean, when did you take that out? Bearing in mind, you've just gotten it. This is what I like about this, is you've just said, you've only really got into reselling last year, and you're already selling on more platforms than a lot of people.
I think the sort of momentum sort of taken over a little bit. I have to slow down a little bit because it is literally taking over my life. I started my Etsy account. My very first thing was in May last year. I got my first booth in November last year, and then I got a bigger one in.
What prompted you to get into a booth, actually? What was the
think
point?
it's because you can sell more things, well, I know that you post big items and you post heavy items, but I didn't really want to go down that route. And we've got nowhere for storage because we live above one of our shops. So I've got no storage space at all. So I need to buy things and move things. I can't hang on to them unless they're small. This is the ideal thing for me with Etsy, is I sell small things which I can store in the house. So compacts and cufflinks and little boxes and, that kind of stuff. But anything bigger than that, I really don't have a lot of space. So the antique booth gives me options to sell bigger stuff. And also I find now I put more and more of the breakables there because I've had quite a few sort of broken cups and all that sort of thing. So
sure,
when you're shipping to America, quite a lot gets busted out.
And I mean, it's interesting as well that the other part of that that's worth exploring is having the guts or the confidence to actually take the step to start a booth, especially when you're so relatively new to reselling. So you've obviously got the confidence there. Do you have any advice that you could give someone? Because a lot of people would still now, I mean, myself included, I'd be a little bit hesitant because obviously there's an outlay, isn't there? You've got to pay a certain amount of rent and you may have to pay a percentage of what you sell, right? That kind of
depends. I mean, the booth where my antique booth is, you just pay a rent. There's no cut then. You get all the money that comes in then. For the small booth to start with, it wasn't too much. I think it was £40 a week for the small one, which isn't really a great deal of money, and if you can stock it and really fill it, and as long as you're in an antique centre that's got a good footfall, it's not that. I mean, I don't make huge profits from my antique booth. I really don't make huge profits from my antique booth. What it does is it gives me flexibility so that when I want to buy things, I've got more options of getting rid of, of clearing stock. It's also building up my experience of what sells and what doesn't sell, because this is all, to me, it's still learning. And it leads on to other things, like I've now signed up to have a stall at an antique fair in November as well. So it's all
snowballed your confidence from.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, has it been covering your costs from the beginning, or have you had a few sketchy months, or has it been?
I haven't had a month where I've been at loss.
Okay.
I haven't made a great amount of profit from my antique booth, but I haven't had a loss either. So.
And now you've got that platform, and you're obviously just kind of honing in on what, like you said, you're figuring out what works, what doesn't. But so it was just you just went for it because you just went for it.
I think, well, my husband and I have always been a bit like that. If you want to do something, do it. Do you know what I mean? Why hang around? Because if sometimes you think about things too much, you put yourself off. So, and the booth's quite where we're at, the antique booth where I've got the antique centre in Bridport. They're really good, as in you only have to give a month's notice. So if you wanted to get out, it's not like you're going to lose too much money.
What you said there about yourself and your husband, you've heard probably Nick say many times about not having the habit of doing things by halves and just going for it. And I definitely feel that that's such an important trait to have, isn't it? Just to take the risk. And
yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Just having a couple more questions coming in. We've actually got 84 people watching now, so hopefully you guys are enjoying the chat so far. If you are, please hit the like button.
I can't read the chat because I've not got my glasses on. So
okay, I'll read the chat for you. Don't worry. I'll keep track of it as best as I can. Wow, actually, I say that and then I lose where I am, don't I? So it's Adam Kelsey says, so Carol Doherty says, actually just started watching Kirsten, brilliant videos. So that's a lovely comment. Adam says, I've not really explored Etsy, seems like another avenue for selling.
Can I just say about Etsy?
Yeah, sure.
There's a big difference from eBay. You don't get the quantity of buyers that you get on eBay. It's not quick like eBay. It's a lot slower. But because you pay the listing fee and it lasts for 4 months, and it's only something like 20 cents, which is obviously about 20p, it's then there for 4 months. I just find it's a gentler platform to sell on. I find eBay can be a bit aggressive. Sometimes the messages you get from people can be quite rude and whereas Etsy, everything's very nice. It's almost flowery, So as long as you don't mind waiting.
Okay. So are you talking about in terms of your customer base? Yeah. So you find that they're just a bit more genteel or something?
Yeah, exactly that. I remember when when I've had sold something on eBay and I'd sent the wrong item by mistake. I'd had a migraine, got up, thought, I've got to get this order off, and picked up the wrong thing and sent it off. It was virtually the same but different. And on eBay, the message back was, "Oh, you're trying to defraud me. I'm going to report you," and all this sort of thing. And I just said, no, it was a genuine mistake. I'll send you the correct one first class, and you can keep the other one. Didn't get any sort of message in return. Whereas on Etsy, they can be waiting 3 months for it to arrive because it's going off to the other side of the world, and they're like, yeah, no problem, I'll wait. So.
Oh wow, and that's an interesting thing, and then that also then leads to gets you thinking, and you start thinking, actually, okay, if you've got a different customer base, then obviously the items you're going to offer are going to have to be that much more unique to attract that kind of a customer. Whereas obviously we know eBay is like an online car boot at some points, isn't it? Except you get market value for things, which is the massive difference. But with Etsy, would you say that there are certain items that you would so for the same item that you'd fetch more money for that item on Etsy versus eBay? Would you say that's a thing or not?
Yeah, definitely. So if it was something that what I tend to do is, if I'm selling something, I will look on eBay to see what sold prices are, and then I'll add. So say it was £20 on eBay, I'll put it on Etsy for 25. and you know, so I don't mind waiting for that extra.
That's interesting, because a lot of people are aware of that with Amazon and FBA, where they know that they can add a higher price because the prime customers are going to be more willing to pay for the better service.
But then again, Amazon take huge cuts, and Etsy
do.
The Etsy percentage of your sale is only 3.4%, and because you have your account set with them, you don't have PayPal charges either, so it's a lot less percentage.
So some real positives there. Thrifty Treasures has joined us as well. Hi there, Tonya. I think she agrees about the having an antique booth, especially for the breakables. So definitely. Sally Kelly says she actually pulled out, or he or she pulled out of her or his or her booth because overheads were too high. And the Whippet says, keep all your options open and never put all your eggs in one basket. Be savvy, be clever. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'd agree with that, because it's one of those things that helps, doesn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. And I find that I'm going to go to my booth tomorrow, and I've had slow selling items there, and I'm going to have a real good clear out, and I'm going to move them from there to somewhere else, you know, and then I'll put new things in there, so I can move stock round however I want to.
Okay, superb. Nick's actually popped in, says, hi guys, just dipping in at the beach right now. Sorry I couldn't join you. All right, so Nick is philandering out there by the sea somewhere. I hope you enjoy your evening, Nick. Like I said, it was a family thing, so you couldn't really get out of it. Carol says Etsy sounds good, definitely. I mean, if you've got the right kind of items, there is definitely something to do there. Andy actually says, my girlfriend enjoys Etsy. I always wondered why she smelled of roses. Now I know. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, a few comments coming in about Nick. Go get yourself a big 99, Nick. Have fun. Right. What else do I want to talk about? Yeah. In terms of going to the auctions, so you've obviously had quite a steep learning curve, I'd guess, because you said, I mean, had you been to auctions before reselling, or was reselling?
No, my first auction was in like October last year.
Your very first auction, and the first auction I went to, I didn't buy anything. I literally just went and watched and saw how it works. And the second auction, I think I bought something for £5, you know, and it's built up from there. And I do find that if I go to a new auction house, that I don't tend to buy much, because they're all slightly different, and it all depends on the auctioneer. And also you find that if you keep going to the same auction house over and over, the auctioneer gets to know what sort of things you like, and he'll look in your direction just at the right moment, and then you'll get the good bargains. So it does work to keep going to the same auction houses. I just want to say to the chat, there's another example there of you, Kirsten, there just getting into just jumping straight in. So you've just started going, and you know, you've built up like a bit of experience from it. So you know, you've mentioned there already that by going to the same one, obviously advantages in terms of, I suppose, networking as well. You know, you might come across someone. Has that happened yet at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, you do. Yeah, there's a lady that I've met at one of the auction houses, and she's really helpful. She doesn't sell a lot online. She's got a shop, so she's been really, really helpful to me, giving me advice. And what I do find is some of the auction houses, people don't talk to each other, so they always find it a bit strange when I walk around and say hello to everybody and talk. They're looking at me like, who's that woman there?
That reminds me, actually, on one of your videos I watched about your auctions, you just said there was something you wanted to know, so you just walked up. Like there was a lady or someone who was buying things that you didn't understand how she was making a profit, or she was buying large items. So you just casually walked up to her and asked her straight.
Yeah. I mean, I think because you catch them by surprise, they've got their guard down. You know, they're not expecting anybody to ask them. So especially that question, because that was pretty much, how do you do it? Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Why not? Because everybody does it different. You know, one old guy. I mean, you do see a lot of pensioners that buy auction just to subsidise their pensions. They'll buy and go to car boot, you know, straight from one to the other. One chap had this great story about he bought an old grandfather clock and took all the pieces apart and sold all the bits separately on eBay, and then, you know, and then sold the case separately and all that sort of thing. So you do hear some great stories. And the more you talk to people, the more fun it is, you know, because they're long days otherwise.
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, they can be. So, just wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing a couple of tips that you've picked up since going, bearing in mind, you know, because sometimes I suppose when people talk about auctions and they've been going for a while, people can listen to the advice and be like, oh yeah, but it's easy for them so-and-so to say this or that because they've been doing it forever. But obviously coming from yourself where you've been going for still a matter of months rather than years, you know, it will be really valuable, I think.
Well, generally, I think if you've got time, then go to the viewing. I don't always have time to do it because an auction takes pretty much a whole day. So to go to a viewing before that is just eating into more time. But if you've got time to go to a viewing and photograph the lots yourself, because often the photographs that auctioneers take are terrible, and then you can go home and research it. That's one way of doing it. What I tend to do is I just look in a box, because I tend to buy job lots. So I'll look in a box and I'll look for the things that I know I can make money on, and I'll work out how much I can make, and then I'll go up to that amount because I know that then the rest of it is extra on top, and usually it's much more than I anticipated. So that works. Another way of getting to know an auction house, because different auction houses will go down to different prices. So like one auction house I go to, the lowest they'll go to is £5. So you know when it gets to £5 and nobody's bidding, that's when to go in if you want that lot. But others will go down to £1. So it's almost like you've got to hold your, you know,
nerve. Yeah.
And you've got to have a poker face, because if they see you're interested, they're not going to go down. So you've got to look like you're not interested, and then at the last second, just go, yes, I'll have that.
Superb. And you've already built up like a little bunch of auctions that you visit locally. I mean, are these auctions that are also online, or are they just offline? Because
most of them do offer online. Well, it's different. Some do online bidding in auction. Others will list all their items online but won't do online auctions, so people can leave commission bids. And then others are just not online at all. But yeah, I think I never knew how many auction houses there were around until you start looking, and then you realise how many there are. There are literally 20 sort of within the area that I could go to. I could go to an auction every day. You know, it's just...
And there's another thing I want to say as well. Often you'll see that question popping up quite a lot on the Facebook groups. You know, are there any auctions in this area or that area? It is just a matter of getting out there, using a bit of initiative and looking. I mean, how did you find the auctions that you found? Just
mostly Google, really. You just Google them. But occasionally it's been other. I go, you know, when I'm again, you go to other people at the auction, you go, where else do you go? What are good auctions to go to? You know, that sort of thing. Smile sweetly and then ask them the question.
That is forthright, and you know it works. But yeah, I mean, it just shows that the information is out there, that there are plenty of auction houses out there, aren't there? And how have you found, because this is quite an important thing, obviously when you're bidding at auction, you've got what's called the hammer price, which is you know the price that you'll be you know, excitably bidding, and then on top of that, they have other charges. How have you found those to vary according, you know, depending on the ones that you've been to?
The ones that I've been to, they don't vary that much. They vary from 17 to 20%, and that's it. And then sometimes, I don't know how they work that out, but sometimes there's VAT on the hammer, on the not on the hammer price,
on the buyer's premium.
Yeah, but usually that doesn't work out too much, you know.
Yeah. So you when you're bidding, you do like a quick calculation in your head. You just whack on another 20-odd%.
I work that out before, so I always have my limit, and I say very rarely go over my limit. If it is, it's like 1 £5 or whatever up. So it's
that
not.
has to be the toughest part about it, definitely.
Yeah,
Actually,
it is. Yeah.
limit.
Sometimes if you really want that one as well, but no, I don't do that.
Even for another £2 or whatever.
They tend to go up in like
fivers.
They'll go down in pounds, but then they go up in like fives. So
fair enough. We've got 107 people in the chat now, so thank you everybody for joining us. Let's just pop into the chat and see what is going on. Oh god, there's comments about imagining Nick in Speedos. We'll pass that one by. Right. A Southwest seller says auctions are great. Get 90% of my stock from the 2 auctions I go to. So volume is great, I suppose. Did you find auctions were like important to get you from, as it were, from scratch up to having like a healthy inventory?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to fill an antique booth and then another bigger antique booth, you do need the quantity of stuff, and then to sell on Etsy and eBay and stuff as well, So yeah, you do get that much bigger quantity. I mean, I know that I watch some YouTubers and they go to car boots and they spend £200 and they've got a boot full of stuff, but that just wouldn't happen for me, You'd pick out the odd nice bit of vintage stuff, but generally you wouldn't get that sort of quantity of stuff,
And you're obviously looking for that certain type of item when that I think everyone's position is obviously different, and you're able to just be like, actually I want to do what I enjoy. So you're finding that is the big difference. And when people watch my videos, I hope they understand that I don't have to make a living out of this. I am starting to make a profit, make a good profit, but it's not a necessity. So there isn't that stress that comes when having to make a living from it. Sure, but you are in a very short space of time actually making it happen. Just a question actually that's just come to mind. So you've got items at your antique booths and obviously you've got Etsy, eBay on the go. Do you ever cross list these items at all, or no? I mean, that would be just too confusing for me. Yeah. My antique booth is quite far away. It's sort of 45-minute drive away, so I couldn't like list on Etsy and have them in the booth at the same time. That just wouldn't work. I suppose I could cross list on eBay and Etsy, but up to now I just haven't had time, to be fair. and in terms of your inventory, like how many items would you say you've got across the board? I mean, is it that's impossible. I mean, I know I've got about I've only got about 200 on eBay. I concentrate on clothes on eBay because I figured that if I did clothes on eBay, I'd have a faster turnover. And so my Etsy is more my vintage stuff. And again, I've got about 300 maybe listings on Etsy. I honestly don't know about that. Yeah. But in the booth, there's loads, just rammed full. So at least 500 items online, and plus you've got like I mean that, and very quickly. So that's definitely a pro for an auction, isn't it? You're pretty much, especially when you're buying those job lots. Definitely. All right, let's just pop back into the chat for a bit. Doing it yourself lifestyle says auction. I get about 30% of my stuff from now. Gary says he picks up some really nice items from auctions and some good job lots. Southwest Ella says 90% is a huge amount. Good work, easy work compared to boot fairs and charity shops. It's not super easy because you're doing, I mean, you've got to, do you mind going into how it feels when you've come home with, and you've got like a nice new van now, so I'm sure it's going to be like van loads of loads of stock, and to process it all, especially in your position where you're saying you can't keep it at home. I do get, nearly every time after I've been to an auction, I get overwhelmed because I bring it all in, bring it all upstairs, and it's all over the kitchen, kitchen table and on the floor and everywhere. And it gets a bit like, what have I done? I've got all this stuff. Where's it going to go? And I've got to cook dinner, and where are we going to eat? And how, that sort of thing. But usually then my husband will come home and I'll go, it's fine. It's not a problem. We'll have a pizza. I'll help us sort it out. We'll get some, and then we sort through it, and gradually, the pile goes down. Actually, that reminds me, didn't you have to clear your son's bedroom out because he was coming back? Oh, yeah. You've taken over his room with...
He's been away for nearly a year. He's been teaching in Spain. So I used his bedroom as a stock room. And he did message me and say, "You are going to clear my bedroom, aren't you?" So yeah, I did. I cleared everything out. So I had to find a new home squirrel. It's the packaging though that's the bulkiest and most difficult that I find to keep. You know, I don't have a problem getting packaging because we've got the shops. We always get boxes, but obviously I want to save them. But where do we put them? You know, that's the problem.
Yeah. So it spreads, doesn't it? The inventory can creep and suddenly before you know it.
To be fair, it is everywhere. You know, every room there is stuff.
So there's pros and cons. So I mean, you know, I think it's very important. I think whenever we talk about this kind of stuff online, it's so easy to just focus on the pros of it, but everything has cons as well, and it's just a matter of weighing them up. And you know, Kirsten's lucky you've got your hubby to come and just give you that. You know, let's have a pizza and get it sorted. Yeah.
To be fair though, if you're self-employed, whether you sell online or resell or not, it sort of takes over your life. I mean, we've been self-employed forever and we've always had stock in the house and you know, paperwork lying around and it's always eaten into days off and holidays and stuff. So it's no different in that way. So I just find this more enjoyable.
It's so much more interesting, I can imagine, going out and hunting for unique different items. Southwest Seller says he picked up a Rotel amp and Marantz CD today. That's fantastic. Really, that's good. Hopefully that'll do well for you. And people are I'm guessing they're looking at auctions because Dave Rowland says, I just noticed the Technics SLB210 at my local auction. Yeah, there's no shortage of inventory, is there, guys? There really isn't. Carol says need to try and find some auctions. Yeah, they're very good. Andrew Robinson asked question, can you do auctions online?
You can. I don't, because I prefer to be there and see what's going on, because you can read the body language and I find that you get the best bargains and sometimes the things that you didn't even want to buy. So if you watch my videos, my best ever haul was some handbags and some jewelry, and I had no intention of buying that lot. I'd looked at them and thought, oh, lovely, but it's going to go way over my price range. Nobody wanted them, and it was a £5, and I was like, yeah, I'll have it. Turned out the jewelry I sold for £300 a few weeks later. So I was really, really happy with that. But if I'd have been online, I wouldn't have bid on that. So it was only because I was in the room. So I think you miss out on things if you bid online. So
just to clarify on that, so you paid a £5 for what was described as a lot of handbags
and some costume jewelry.
And some costume jewelry. And it was because you know you were there at the right place, right time. You thought, you had a quick gander at it.
Yeah, and the auction houses tend to be full of men. You know, you do get some women, but you know, and they weren't interested in the handbags. And one was beautiful. I mean, I still think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful leather 1920s, 30s handbag. Absolutely gorgeous. And the jewelry wasn't my taste, but somebody liked it.
Enough to pay £300 for it as well. So fantastic flip. And one thing I'd add, Andrew, is in terms of doing auctions online, be aware that obviously what Kirsten mentioned there, you're not going to get to see the item. So if you can still view the item, go home and bid, it can be quite helpful because as you've mentioned, Kirsten, auctions can take the whole day. So one of the benefits, if the auction house is local to you and you go and you've had a look and you know what you want, you can just come home and in the comfort of your own home, you can bid, but then be prepared that there are other people that are going to be doing exactly the same as you, which means the price is going to go a lot higher than at an auction, which doesn't offer an online bidding service. And also most places that offer an online auction will also typically have like another 5% tacked on in terms of an online fee. So, you know, bear that in mind. Adam says, I think Nick is behind those double doors waiting to do a grand entrance. I can assure you he is not. So we'll move past that. Right. Krillin says, sounds like trying to get a woman. If you seem too interested, you won't have success. Well, there's probably something in that, Krillin. Wow, comments have just been coming in. Krillin actually, oh, thank you. Krillin has actually super chatted $2 asking, are you talking about storage locker auctions? We're not. I haven't been to a storage locker auction. These are regular general auctions, you'd call them.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of generally most of the auction houses that I go to, they'll do general auctions one time, and then they'll do an antiques and collectibles another time. I tend to go to both, but because the house clearance ones are usually really good. You get some gems in there and you don't pay as much. So I really like them. But no, I've not been to anything like that. None of this sort of storage.
That's actually quite a good tip. If they're a house clearance one, you do tend to do better, because you'll notice as well, won't you, that when you look at certain auctions, some auction houses will break things down a lot more to individual items or groups of similar items, and those are typically going to mean that people, you're going to get collectors looking at those things, and they're going to probably go a bit higher, aren't they? Whereas on the house clearance auction, it's going to be banana boxes normally of stuff. And that's,
I love those.
love those. Yeah, I saw one of the videos where you had them stacked up. I think you had like...
I had one box and it cost me, I think, a £5 or something. I got home and I thought, why have I bought this? Everything's covered in grease and filth, So I started tipping it out, and at the bottom of the box was a load of loose change, and there was 21 quid's worth of money in the bottom of the box.
Wow. See, that's can't do better than that, can you? Really? £5 into 21 cash plus whatever you managed to salvage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic. Paradox Picker asked question, how many items you currently have listed? I think we said you probably got well over 500 online, and then
online, about 500.
and then your stores, your booths, a fair bit more. Right, let's pop in. Lonnie's popping in to say hi. Got to catch this later. Okay, that's fine. He's on the road. Thanks for popping in. Oh gosh, the chat's done that thing where it jumps again. I hate that.
Yes. I'll put my glasses on. I might be able to see.
Right. Right. Adam says, I use eBay initially to sell the stuff in my spare room. Now it's fuller than ever. Will you take less says, had to buy my first bubble wrap today. Always got it from Skipped. I ran out. Bought greenhouse bubble from Home Base, was the cheapest at hand today. The old supplies. What do you do about your packaging supplies? I guess you get them as part of your the business.
Yeah, because we've got shops, so I've always got boxes, and I scrounge bubble wrap. And the other day at the auction house, the wife of the auctioneer said to me, "You don't want any bubble wrap, do you?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "We've got bags of it." I was like, "Yes, please, give me the bubble wrap."
I'll take it all. And again, that's an advantage, because you've struck up that rapport because you've been visiting.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, I really think that some auction houses, people don't talk to each other. They just come and they stand there and they bid and then they leave, And I walk in and I talk to everybody.
And it's definitely worked out, hasn't it? Reselling-ish podcast says, I deal with a lot of auction companies from the shipping end, picking up items that people need shipped to them. Talk to the auction house. They always have stuff left over that they want to throw out. Oh, yeah, that does tend to happen sometimes, I suppose, when the lots just don't get any interest whatsoever. But I mean, that's
generally, that means that there's nothing in there.
Southwest says, find lots of sterling silver in job, lots of metalware, always a bonus. And Southwest Seller says, Z bronze statue. I think that might be because I mentioned ages ago I bid on what I thought was meant to be a bronze statue. I bid online, and it was really badly painted in bronze. I think it was brass, and it was just really badly painted. If I'd seen it in person, there was no way I would have gone on it, and I was wondering why it wasn't getting bid up further. And then,
I don't know why they don't. I don't want them to take better photos, because it just would make online bidding better. But I prefer them to take terrible photos, but they really are bad.
Well, it's a good point. They do really. I think they must do it on purpose. I think that ideally, as an auctioneer as well, you want people to come to the auction room, because they kind of work off the buzz as well, don't they? I mean, yeah. I don't know about you, but I've been to auction rooms where it's subdued and it's quiet, and then the auctioneer struggling to get a buzz going.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Anne Hamilton says, I get my bubble wrap from the Tesco fruit and veg section. They tell me to take as much as I want. There's a very good way of getting hold of it. My Pat Crat Joe has popped in. Hi UK, he says he's fantastic YouTube channel as well, guys. Should definitely check that out as well. Lisa asks, can you sell sterling silver for scrap? I mean, what would you do?
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah. You can, but I think a lot of it depends on if it's a nice item, then you're going to probably make more by selling it because of it.
I've had things that I had some silver plated little dishes, and all the silver plate had come off, and they weren't a bit battered, and I put them on Etsy as a little job lot, and I said imperfect, still beautiful little dishes, ideal for, you know, trinket dishes or whatever, and I sold them.
So it's how you kind of gave them a use, didn't you? That's actually quite. I think that's quite a good tip, actually. So if you've got something that, just because you might not find that item to be very useful, if you can,
it doesn't have to be perfect, is what I'm saying. You know, you can say it's still beautiful even though it's not perfect.
And people buy costume jewelry, so it's not all about, you know, the composition of the precious metal.
£300 jewelry was costume jewelry.
Oh, that's insane, isn't it? £300 costume jewelry. Is it a brand that you'd be willing to share at all, or I think you mentioned it in the video, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. It's called Oscar de la Renta.
You'll never forget that name, will you?
You'll never forget. No.
Oscar de la Renta, people. If you see it, you know, get it. Yeah, I mean, costume, just plain costume jewelry. What was it? I can't remember. It was.
I wouldn't call it plain. It was quite.
Yeah, it was extravagant.
Yeah, it was quite in your face. Yeah.
That's amazing. Krillin's in with another $2 super chat. Thank you. Wow. Bidders don't chat at auction like an adult bids. Well, bidders don't tend to chat unless you're Kirsten, and then you just go up to people and ask them how you're doing it.
Yeah.
Wait, it's a shortcut, isn't it? I mean, you've picked up. I'm sure. I mean, how actually? Just what was the response? Actually, we didn't go into what the response was from the lady that you asked.
I can't remember what it was. I think she bought some horrible dolls, some old, really foul-looking, smelly dolls, you know. And I said, well, I was going to chance it at 20 quid, but she'd gone up to something like £300 on these dolls. Oh. And I said to her, what are you going to do with those dolls? And she said, well, they're a particular brand, you know, and I'll sell them on eBay and they'll make me loads of money. And when I saw her weeks later, I said, how did you do with the dolls? And she said, oh yeah, I sold them and I made a profit, but never again. She said doll buyers are so picky and they ask you so many ridiculous questions, like, if you pull the leg out, what thread comes out of this color, you know?
Oh gosh.
So yeah.
So those
buy dolls
or that particular style, maybe. I mean, there was actually a lot of chat about people buying haunted dolls recently. So I don't know, maybe you can go down that route and describe them as haunted or something. So it's a bit
I've had a few dolls, but I haven't sold them for much.
Rebecca's got 2 of these horrid things that she's keeping. I don't know why she's got them. Yeah, I think they're horrible looking. Right, Pete's Retro Collectible says, my brother has a deal with his local auction house that if no one wants it at the minimum bid, he gets first refusal for £3 a lot. And that there is a perfect example of, you know, him going out there.
Certainly, if you see that it doesn't sell, you can then approach the auctioneer and say, will you accept this for it? And I'm sure that there's deals to be done. But usually, I find that if it's not gone for anything, it's not something I want to touch.
I've seen it plenty of times where once the auction's over, you'll see the same regular faces walking up to the auctioneer, and they're pretty much making deals on all the lots that haven't sold or that had reserves. No, carry on. I'm really bad for interrupting.
I have been to the auctioneer after the auction and said, look, I was interested in this, but I was too slow, you know, I didn't bid quick enough and you moved on to the next item. Are you willing still to sell it at that minimum price? And I haven't negotiated less, but I've got it for that minimum price when I've been a bit slow off the mark, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've done that a couple of times as well. Where
Yeah.
actually, it was one of the other things that you mentioned where I was at an auction for the first time and I didn't know what their minimum was,
Yeah.
and it was actually like a little old Sony Walkman thing,
Yeah.
and it just went down to a certain amount. I thought, okay, he's going to go down again maybe to
Yeah.
two, and he stopped at like £4, and then it moved on. But luckily, I got it at the end for £4. So because I went and asked, or did I shout straight away? I think I shouted straight away, actually, saying, "Actually, I'll take it for £4," and
Yeah.
that was it. Yeah. Thrifty Treasure says, "I find you can ask more for your jewelry on Etsy than eBay." You touched on that earlier, didn't you? That it's a
Yeah,
market where
generally, I look at what sells on eBay for a certain price, and I'll add some on and put it on Etsy.
definitely. Doing It Yourself Lifestyle has a question: what makes the most money for you, eBay, Etsy, or the booths?
It really changes all the time because Etsy was making me the most money to start with. Then I concentrated on the booth for a while, and then that was making me some money. And then I concentrated on setting up my eBay shop because that's the newest. And then that did really well, but then I have to take my eye off the ball there, and then that's slow, you know, so it changes literally weekly because they're all sort of a similar level.
And you find that it's what you're focusing on that performs
Definitely.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair dues, fair dues. Okay, there's a couple of comments about Dave says, "I'm surprised more auction houses don't do tea, coffee, and cakes." You're going to the wrong auction houses, Dave. They mostly do offer them.
Yeah, mostly they do.
Yeah. Stephen Watling has a question: had a buyer who got an item and then came back to me saying it was priced too high, even though it went as best offer. Ever had this? That's peculiar. So someone, wow, someone bought something off you and then came back telling you it was price. No, I don't know. That's just the internet for you, isn't it?
I think I'd just cancel the sale and just move on.
That's, yeah, I mean, that's just very strange. Why would you buy it if you thought it was priced too high? It just weird. Just people are just strange sometimes. Right. She's using those dolls for witchcraft. Sticking pins in them. Oh gosh. The Hillsman says, "I take it Nick did not make it." Yep, he messaged me earlier. He was in the chat earlier, the Hillsman. He wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. Apparently he's busy on a beach in his Speedos eating a 99, says Lisa Fenn. That's the rumor going around in the chat, definitely. Does Rebecca have a doll of you, Z, and stick pins in it when you're naughty, says Dave? No, not as far as I'm aware. Sorry, Zia, for stealing the chat with my sad life. Not at all, Hillsman. I don't know why you've said that. Have I missed something? Oh gosh, let me just see if I can scroll back. Oh, okay. His aunt passed away 2 weeks ago. Well, severe, genuine condolences there, Hillsman. I didn't see that. I didn't on purposely miss it, just so you know. There's no need to be sorry at all. We all chat in here, don't we? So we talked about our cat a couple of weeks ago. We all talk about things. So
One big family.
Exactly. It's part of the fun of it. God, has Nick got monkey's blood on his 90? I don't even know what that means. I'm just gonna Z's a great interviewer. Can we have Robert De Niro next? Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be quite that would be a step down, actually, from having Kirsten. And Nick says, "Z, I'm back in the house. Are you wrapping up, or shall I jump in?" Yeah, you can jump in. There's still about 7 minutes to go. Let me see if I can just copy the link and message him. See if he can just hop in. It'd be nice to say.
Doing that, not me.
Yeah, and it'd be nice for him to say, "I just got to." That's the problem. We try to keep up with the chat, but we're really not good at it. It's not easy.
I haven't even tried, so.
Oh, you've been fantastic though. We've got over 100 people watching. It'll be great to see Nick pop in if he can. I wish I'd seen that earlier. I don't know if he's still there. I have messaged him now, but we'll see. We'll see if he pops in. Yeah, exactly. Right. I now I've lost the chat. There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay. So going forward, what would you say your plans are going to be in terms of your focus? Because you've got so many different platforms. It would be interesting to know, like, where do you? I mean, like you said, you kind of realized very quickly you like the antique stuff, and then you've opened up these different platforms. Do you think you're getting a feel for what your preferred platform is, and what you think you might end up giving the majority of your focus, or are you or do you foresee yourself continually just sharing the focus out as you are currently?
I don't think it does any harm to keep, your eggs in more than one basket.
Yeah.
I'm really going to see how this antique fair goes in November, because if I can make a decent amount of money doing a few antique fairs a year,
yeah,
then it might be something that I do. But I think you'd still be wanting to sell online in between time, so I'd stick with the Etsy and the eBay and things. So I enjoy my booths at the antique centre, but they don't make, for the amount of time that it takes, they don't really make me a huge amount of profit. So unless I see that turnaround, I might scale that down slightly. Because at the moment I've got a small one and a big one. But as I say, it's so new still, and I'm still learning what people like to buy, and sometimes you're surprised. It just amazes me, things that sell quickly that you think nobody's going to want that, but I'll try it, and that sells quickly, and then something that you think's beautiful sitting there, weeks and weeks later. So it really is just a learning curve for me.
It'd be interesting to actually get your thoughts on this. So you've actually booked. I'm guessing one of this antique stall you've booked is a big popular fair, and you've had to book it in advance, and you've stocked up for it, or I mean,
yeah.
And what was
I went to, there's an antique fair at this particular, I don't know what you call it, places where they do fairs, they do wedding fairs and they do all different fairs near Exeter. And I went to the last one, which was at the beginning of June. And, when you just fall in love and it's like, oh my God. Oh, hi, Nick.
Hello. How that worked? Wow.
Hi, Nick. It's worked. Yeah, Nick is on his phone. I just want to quickly pop in and cut you off, Nick, as soon as you've come in. Reseller Niche Podcast has just super chatted $5, saying love auctions. Really need to get to more of them. Great stuff. See, enjoying it a lot. Well, that's thanks to Kirsten for being an epic guest. So appreciate it. So Nick.
Hey guys. Hi Kirsten. How are you?
Hi Nick.
The chat was majorly gutted. So yeah, there's talk of you being in your Speedos eating flakes on the beach. So yeah, you could guess that's where the chat went.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that glamorous, to be honest. Yeah, we've just got back to the house we're staying in. Hang on, Andrea's here somewhere as well. Andrea's somewhere. Hold on.
Hi, Andrea.
So yeah, it was sorry I couldn't make it. We tried to work it out time-wise, but we were all down on the beach having food, so.
Yeah, that takes priority, doesn't it, really? So, a bit of family time.
Anyway.
Pardon?
Food always takes priority.
How was the chat? Have you had a good chat?
Oh, we're still live now, yeah. So.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've got over 102 people watching. It's been really good. Kirsten's been sharing a lot. We were just actually talking about, she's actually booked in for an antique booth. So she took the plunge. So not a booth, sorry, like a stall at a fair. So she's already got all these different plates spinning. So you've got eBay store, you've got an Etsy store, you've got 2 antique booths now, as well as shop. As well as using a shop window as well that you've got access to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because all of that's not clearly enough, she's decided that she also needs a booth at a fair. So we were just actually talking about like the logistics of that and what she's expecting from that actually. So.
Well, I think I got a bit carried away. I went to the antiques fair in June and I got overexcited, and I spoke to a few other dealers and they said, yeah, just go for it. So I did. And then, a month or so later, I'm thinking, oh, what have I done? So I'm trying to stock up on things ready for that.
Yeah, I mean that's something definitely that I think a trait that you share with a lot of resellers, which is like the jump in. I think Nick's already got tech issues with his internet connection there. Once you've done this though, I mean you'll probably feel a lot more confident about it, depending on how it goes. And obviously at a fair, you're going to have amazing footfall. I mean, how long have you been building up your inventory for it?
Well, I signed up for it in June.
Okay.
I just started buying for it because without the van, it was difficult for me to get the bigger items and things. So now that I've got my van, I can really stock up, and I'm just trying to pick up some better quality items because a lot of the stuff that I deal with is sort of cheaper, you know, little knickknacks and bits of kitsch and things like that. I sell a lot of that sort of thing, but on the antique fair I really want some quality there, so I'm trying to pick up a little bit at each auction so that it builds up that sort of stock.
Oh, I think we're having a bit of Dalek issues there with Nick's internet connection. I don't think it's going to work out. But interesting that you talk about, you know, so you're actually looking at a different level of quality. So you're not going to be going for the, I mean, are you still going to be getting job lots and picking the gems out, obviously? But when you're buying specifically in mind, you may be going for like smaller lots and higher value lots so that you can take advantage of being at the fair. Yeah,
and I might, if I need to, I might rob my Etsy stock for the fair as well, you know.
Right.
But I'm trying to each auction get at least some items that I can use for my fair.
And are you going to be documenting this hopefully on your channel?
Yeah, I mean the problem is I will be on my own doing this fair, so depending on how busy it is, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if it's like a review afterwards of how you found it or something, that would be pretty epic to see. There's a question from Lisa Fenn, question for Kirsten. How do I learn about jewelry? I know absolutely nothing about it. I'm interested in costume jewelry, where and what to buy. I can't get to auctions. What would you recommend in that situation?
I'd watch Margaret on Texas Gal, see what she has to say. To be fair, I really struck it lucky with that jewelry. I bought it for the handbags, you know, I didn't buy it for the jewelry, so I can't say that I know a great deal about it. I have bought other costume jewelry, nice old brooches, but I find that cufflinks sell better than anything. Cufflinks and compacts, that kind of thing. But I have got a whole load of brooches and that kind of thing, but I can't say I've got a great deal of knowledge on it.
To get you going, Lisa, it's Oscar de la Renta, right?
Yeah, yes, definitely.
That's it. Anytime anyone asks you, you can just say that.
I want some commission though.
Yeah, you'd need a commission on that, definitely. Andrea has just popped in and says Nick's phone died and the internet was crap too. So, okay. Well, I mean, we've just gone over the hour actually, so I think unless there's any other final questions popping in, I think we've had a really fantastic chat. Got to let Kirsten get back to her evening as well. Hopefully your family and your sons didn't think it was too strange.
I had to tell them.
Yeah.
Last week I had to tell them, and they all did that sort of shocked face, that kind of like, oh my.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I think it's worked out really well. You know, very positive reaction in the chat. A lot of people enjoying it. I know, not so. I mean, a lot of people loving having you on here and getting an insight into how you do things. Just a final reminder, guys. I've put Kirsten's YouTube channel in the description box below. So do yourself a favor, have a look at it. It's a really fun channel. You know, you put up videos.
Sorry, I've got a video that I haven't edited yet, but we went to Malvern at the weekend for the big flea market, and I had best time ever. It was amazing. So if you live near there and you haven't been to the flea market, go. It's just epic.
Malvern. So you were in your element there, were you?
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, lots of lovely comments coming in. Peter Cummins says, great chat. Lisa Fenn says, thanks, Kirsten. Peter Ray, great chat, great show. Very interesting chat, says Andrew Robinson. So people have definitely enjoyed having you on, and you know, really appreciate it as well. You know, thanks for your time. Well, I'm glad if you guys enjoyed it. Please, you know, smash the like button as often as you can to make sure that I get all the thumbs up that I can for my fragile ego. It's appreciated. I don't know how else to explain it, really.
Honesty is the best policy.
Just honesty, yeah. I'm just going to say it. And like I said, pop into the description, have a look at Kirsten's channel as well, and subscribe, and you'll get some cool content there as well. I'll next be on, I'm not sure what's going on. I think on Thursday we're going to be doing a chat on Caroline's channel. I'm not sure if Nick's still having his chat as well. He's got a guest lined up, which should be epic as well. And then we'll be back on Friday with our Friday chinwag. But in the meantime, thanks everyone for joining us, and hope you enjoyed the chat.